Always happy to be joined by this man. It is Brian Windhorst of ESPN. And first of all, Brian, thank you for the time this morning. I don't know if you've heard, seen what has happened since the podcast you did last weekend, but you got Denver people all riled up, man. Are you aware of this?
I'm not aware of it, but my guess is that people didn't actually listen to it.
Yes.
If they're riled up.
Well,
but that's life.
Yeah, that's life. Well, this is what it stems from. And look, I think, speaking on behalf of people here, we're all sensitive because every time somebody has a good game, Steph goes off for 49 points like he did last night or something happens, it's always like, oh, well, this guy needs to be in the MVP discussion. We're sitting here like, we got a guy who's pretty damn good. And at times it doesn't feel like he gets the love he deserves because maybe he's not highlight reel and maybe he doesn't play above the rim. But the overall assessment, and maybe a chance to clarify things if people misconstrued what you were saying on the podcast last weekend, what are your thoughts on Jokic in the MVP discussion?
Well, I just couldn't believe that the spread was as big as it was. This poll this poll that ESPN does, it's not going out and asking people on the street. It's the actual voters. Now the season isn't over, so things change. But this poll, they can go ahead and start engraving the trophy based on this poll because it was 90-5 in first place vote. And what my frustration was is that Embiid had been basically ruled out because he had missed 3 weeks with an injury, and I just didn't feel that was a fair assessment of the situation. I am not arguing with the results in so much as that I think the results are what the voters think. I was disappointed in the voters. The voters had Steph Curry 12th. 12th. There's 101 ballots. There's 101 ballots on the NBA poll, and he was on 6 ballots. I was one of them who had him on my ballot. Okay, and I don't mean in first. I mean on one of the 5 spots. I defy you to explain to me why he's 12th, and I just feel that the methodology was off. So, as I said repeatedly, although it didn't make any difference, and I realize that this is the case in modern media where everything gets aggregated and distilled out, I said repeatedly that I thought Nikola Jokic was worthy of the MVP. My problem was that people were discluding Joel Embiid because he had missed 3 weeks with an injury. And I didn't think that was fair, and I still feel that way. My guess is if the vote were taken again today, that it would be much closer. But Jokic, that lead is so commanding that I would be stunned if he does not win the award.
Well, Brian, first of all, thanks for walking into the Lions Den. Seriously, all sincerity, I know it's never easy when an entire fan base is wondering what you're thinking, and then you got to talk about it. So I really do respect the fact that you're with us this morning. But I have to ask, I, too, was surprised by the lead Joker has in that. And, I'm not sure, Tim Bontemps does that. He polls every voter, and that's on them. I guess my question to you is just because someone doesn't align with your thinking when it comes to voting doesn't make them wrong. Where would you have Nikola Jokic? Where do you have him right now seated in the MVP race?
I haven't made up my total mind. He was second on the ballot that I submitted. I submitted Embiid first and Jokic second. The thing was, the previous ballot that was taken in February, Jokic was third on that ballot. LeBron was first and Embiid was second. It was somewhat close. LeBron had 53 first-place votes. That was the first week of February. That was right after LeBron had the great game against the Nuggets, and there may have been some recency bias that affected that voting a little bit, that comeback victory, I believe it was. But basically what I thought was the voters in this year where everybody is hurt had just decided that Jokic is going to be first because, he hasn't been hurt. And I just didn't like that methodology. And that was my problem with the voting was that people disqualified him because he missed 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's life.
There is some, I agree. A guy can't play 10 games and win the MVP. There is some level of games that you miss too many, and I didn't think it was there yet. And I just couldn't believe the spread. When you looked at the voting, the way the voting changed between February and March, and it was a good, 6 or 7 week span. The voting to go full on Jokic was basically a vote about health and I didn't think that the MVP vote should only be dedicated to health. That said, at the end of the day, guys, it's a very academic, low-stakes argument. It is something that people get riled up about, but it is not something that is defining in any case.
But this is a big deal for Denver, Brian. Brian, if Nikola Jokic becomes the first Nugget to win the MVP, it's a big deal for a smaller market. It's a huge deal. You don't understand the amount of attention it brings this team, this city. This is a bigger deal to Denver than it would be to Philly or LA. I can guarantee you that much.
Well, I'm sure that's true, but it's two of the voters arguing with each other. But one thing I've learned in the NBA is that nothing is a certainty. People who talk in absolutes in the NBA are routinely, humbled. But I would be, like I said, I would be stunned if Jokic doesn't win it, because that size lead, especially with the Nuggets continuing to play well, that size lead is close to insurmountable as I've seen since this poll has been happening, and his polling has been very good on this number.
And Brian, I fully let me back up what Vic is saying. We fully admit that here in Denver, we come from a position of
course, we're biased.
Yeah, we come from a position of bias, but we also feel, over the years, hey man, we've never gotten our due for whatever reason, and we got a guy now who's having that type of year. And I look at his game last night. I mean, he exploded more than 50% from the floor. I think he was over 60% from the floor. Huge game, 47 points, pulling down all the boards. He's a walking triple-double on most nights. And I don't see that out of other guys. So what is it? What would Nikola Jokic have to do in your eyes on both ends of the floor in order to be your number one? If you wanted to submit your last ballot, what would you want to see?
Well, I think he's been terrific, obviously, offensively. The things that he does, we really haven't seen a big man play like that before. And the condition that he's in this year and his ability to stay healthy has been, a huge factor for the Nuggets, because they've had other guys banged up, especially Murray, been injured, a huge portion of the season. And then the Nuggets are in fourth position right now because of his great play, just like they won last night's game because of his great play. He is absolutely an extremely strong candidate. I think if you look at the way Embiid plays, is particularly at both ends, and kind of what they expect him to do. Like even last night, if you saw what he was being asked to do in the pick-and-roll defense on Steph Curry. Now, Steph Curry burned the heck out of it.
It didn't work.
It did not work. But if you watch the way Embiid plays defensively, especially when he's engaged, he is a weapon on the defensive end of the floor.
Well,
and, Philly has the second-best defense in the league, and that is a big factor in what I was looking at. I mean, last year, when evaluating the MVP race, one of the reasons that Giannis won was because he was also Defensive Player of the Year. And, Embiid is probably not going to win Defensive Player of the Year. There's a little bit of politics within his own team on that. But I look at what they ask him to do. A guy of that size to play in the NBA today, where there's such demand for switching, where he's got to switch and come out there, it's a real challenge for him, and he really, really excels defensively, specifically when he's engaged, and that is a factor in the vote, without question.
Sure. Well, Brian, and this is where I respectfully disagree with you. You can't just pick and choose your defensive categories and say, this guy's a better defensive player. All around, is Embiid a better defensive player than Nikola Jokic? Yeah, he's a bigger presence down low. But I tell you what, I watched a game last night where late in the game, final seconds, Nikola Jokic busted his hump to get out to a shooter to force a missed three to save the game for the Denver Nuggets. I look at the stats and I see Nikola Jokic is top 15 in steals in the entire NBA, leads his team in steals. Those got to matter. Those are defensive stats. Why don't they matter to you?
I mean, functionally, there is no comparison between Jokic and Embiid defensively. That's if you want to create an argument for why Jokic is the MVP, I think you look at the impact that he makes on the 360-degree aspect of the game and the way that he is able to act in many ways. The Nuggets last night are playing against the number one, since the trade deadline, which is where you kind of draw a line, the Memphis Grizzlies have been the number one offensive team in the league. And they come out full board. Ja Morant has one of the best games he's had basically since he hurt his ankle, just full bore heat from the Grizzlies. the Nuggets are playing without their top 2 point guards. Okay, they don't have Monty.
So how is that on Jokic, though? What does that have to do with
I'm saying he plays the role of being the facilitator. That ability to be the facilitator on offense as a center is just, I mean, it's very rare in NBA history to see a guy like that be able to deliver. That is the strength of his case. His case is not only does he shoot well and rebound, but that he is able to basically facilitate and create offense out of the center position. It is very rare. That is the strength of his case. The strength of his case is not comparing steal numbers to Joel Embiid.
Brian, before we let you go, I did want to get just your overall thoughts on the Nuggets, by the way, with Jamal Murray now out. What do you think is best case scenario for them moving forward? Like, we had these ideas of this maybe being a championship type team when everybody was healthy, but with Jamal out now, what's best case?
Yeah, I really did think, when I first started covering the league, the Detroit Pistons made a trade at the trade deadline where they acquired Rasheed Wallace, and not that Aaron Gordon is Rasheed Wallace, but when the Pistons made that trade, all of their roles fell into place, and they went from being a good to a very good team to being a great team, and they won the championship. The defensive improvement that the Nuggets made after the Aaron Gordon trade. I mean, before the trade, they were 20th in the league on defense, which they're so good offensively that they have a fighting chance in any series. But their defense was going to be a challenge for them to win 4 out of 7 at the highest level in 4 series. After Aaron Gordon came, they became I think they're 10th or 11th, but they became basically a top 10 defense after Aaron Gordon got there. And it's not because Aaron Gordon himself is this incredibly smothering defensive player, but what he was able to bring and his skill set aligned so well with what the Nuggets had that they became a different team. And they're the best team in the league since that trade. Even now, they're 12-2 in the 12 games he's played. That's the best record in the league since then. And so I saw a team building towards something special. And I think that they still they're very potent. They're very dangerous. They will be a challenge to beat 4 out of 7. Where I think the question becomes is, if you get into a game 5, a game 6, a game 7, and you are down in the fourth quarter, which we know that happens with the Nuggets, can Jokic and Porter carry you the way that Jamal Murray was able to do in the playoffs last year? There are certain people that say, nope, it can't happen, write the Nuggets off. I'm not ready to say that, but their margin for error, and in the playoff series, margin for error to me is everything. The level that you can play and still get away with the win. Their margin for error has narrowed, and that's a tough thing for them to do to try to overcome that. But that trade, I mean, the thing about it is that they knew they were trading for him for at least 2 years because that's what he's got left on his contract. Maybe they extend him, maybe they don't. We'll see. But they've got Jokic playing great. They got Murray playing great. They got their other guys. They got their guys in their primes. That was going to be the 2-year run. They were going to go for these 2 years. And my gosh, I think they had a real shot at getting one of those championships or getting a championship in one of those years. And now the injury just sets them back because it's going to affect both seasons. And that's just very disappointing. I would not write them off at all, but it's very disappointing because of what the level that they were playing after the deal.
Brian, I agree. It sucks. We'll leave you with this. We have under a minute to go here. And again, appreciate you being here. I just want to make sure people understand how the media portrays certain things matters. The narratives matter. How they spun, it matters nationwide. And I'll leave you with this question. Last night, who had better night? Who had a better game? Steph Curry or Nikola Jokic?
I mean, Curry doing it in Philly they were missing 2 starters. So, I mean, that victory was a nice victory, but I don't think it's comparable to the way the victory the Nuggets had. That was a terrific game. But again, to be honest with you, I don't think you've listened to me at all because I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with Jokic winning. Jokic is a very worthy MVP award winner, and he's probably going to win.
I agree, Brian, but on the cover of every ESPN story this morning, everything ESPN does is Steph Curry. Front page of ESPN. I mean, I know that's not you, but ESPN just shoved Steph Curry down our throat. But if you look at the numbers, Nikola Jokic had the best night in the NBA last night across the board. He had the best game. His team won in double OT. He had the best numbers across the board. Nobody came close to Nikola Jokic's numbers last night. But it was the Steph Curry
there's
show.
There's always going to be a prettier girl in the world, and Steph Curry is a very pretty girl. I mean, Steph Curry is one of the most enjoyable players to watch
he is.
the game, okay?
He is. But we'd love to watch our guy, Brian.
What I'm about to say is not a controversial statement. It's just true. People like watching Steph more than they like watching Jokic. Does that make people wrong? I don't know.
I get it.
I mean, you can be upset about that, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
And it also happened on national television on the East Coast, which I'm going to tell you it matters. Again, I'm from Cleveland. You think I don't understand small markets getting overlooked? I'm very well aware. But I'm also somebody who tries to live in reality, and absolutely tremendous. And I'm going to tell you something. Jokic is probably going to win this award, okay? And I understand that people get fired about stuff, and that's whatever. But at the end of the day, he's probably going to be holding it. So get all your righteous indignation out now, because you're going to have to celebrate him
All right.
celebrate him as the guy who's doing it here pretty soon is my expectation.
Right. And we will, Brian, and we thank you for your time as always.
Windy, thanks, man.
It's always awesome to have you on. I'm just saying, think about it, Brian. Think about it. Just think about it. Take care.
Appreciate it.
Brian Windhorst, ESPN.
See? That was calm.
It was calm. Look, and of course, this is what happens, right? Like, he's going to get crushed on the text line. He's going to get crushed on Twitch. I really honestly feel like he wasn't saying a lot that you could disagree with. Now, I disagree with him having Embiid number one on his
What do you mean?
MVP
I
list.
disagree with this fundamental point. Embiid over Joker. If you were to pick
that's
a
what I'm
player
saying,
today moving forward, one is 26, one is 27, who are you starting your franchise with?
I'm franchise with Nikola
Joker,
Jokic.
but hang on. What he's saying is that this is indisputable, guys. Embiid is a way better defender than what Jokic is. Jokic, it doesn't mean he's bad, but Embiid is better.
He's a way better rim protector.
Yes. But here's the thing. That matters more to some people. Not to me.
Okay.
Not to me. That matters more to some people.
We could sit here and do this all day long. I mean, Vic made a great point about Joker flashing out to the perimeter, and
they choose not to see things like that, though.
Yeah.
They choose to to follow the narrative.
Top 15 in steals in the league, number one on his team, and by far the number one big man in terms of steals. So I mean, to each his own, Kaner.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty is
Steph
in the
Curry's
eye,
a defensive demon.
Yeah, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, Kane.
Got to take a break. 303-504-0925.